did I take of yours?
Right, and so this is my yours.
Okay. Is that yours? Okay.
The next time around, I will probably.
What else did I take? All right.
Sherry had nothing to do with it.
Thank you for that.
Boards years ago must have heard of that. Found it.
Yeah, I just want everybody to notice my fine hat here, okay?
I got the original here.
Okay, all right, well, it's 7.
7:06 according to my computer.
7.
7:00.
I'm going to call the June 18th, 2024 meeting of the White Bear Lake Conservation District Board to order. We have a quorum, thank you. And we're called to order, so that brings us to item 3, approval of agenda. Would anybody like to make any adjustments to tonight's agenda? Okay, would anyone like to make a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
Moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That passes. Approval of the May 21st, 2024 meeting minutes. Would anyone like to propose any adjustments to those minutes? Would anyone like to make a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, that passes. Okay, it's public comment, so we reserve 15 minutes on each meeting's agenda for the public to comment on items that are not on the agenda. And I don't think there's anyone here to take advantage of that 15 minutes, but is that correct? All right. Okay, so we will move on. So the next item on our agenda is a public hearing, but we're not going to start that until after 7:10. So we'll move on to new business. And Chris Churchill had to attend a meeting in Matamidi regarding his appointment to this board. So that's where he's at the moment, and he is going to be coming here when he's done with that meeting. So we'll just skip over the commercial bay compliance checks and get to that when Chris is here. So the next item under new business is resolution accepting Manitou clothing donation. Mike?
If you remember, Manitou Clothing came to us and wanted to use our name or logo or anything. I'm not sure how much they did at all, but they were going to give us a percentage. And we received a check from them for $500. Alan was going to write a resolution to accept it?
It's in our packet.
Okay, all right. So do we need a motion to accept it then? Okay, well, I make a motion that we graciously accept his $500.
And what you're passing, Mr. Pronto, is you're making a motion to approve the resolution accepting the gift. As it's in
Make
the
a
packet.
motion, okay, to accept the resolution,
Yeah, the resolution.
accepting the gift.
So
Yep.
you're moving forward on the resolution accepting the gift.
Right.
Resolution 24-1.
Okay, Resolution 24-1, to accept the $500 check from Manitou Clothing.
Second.
Okay, we have motion and a second. Any discussion? Alan?
Although it's in the resolution, I would just note that they didn't put any conditions on it, so those funds are flexible for you folks to spend or put in whatever budget item that you'd like to do. So sometimes those gifts are earmarked towards very specific things, and as far as I can tell, this was not the case. Is that true, Gary?
Yes.
Yeah, so however you allocate it, you can do that.
So in this situation, if the motion passes and the resolution is approved, where would that money go, Mike?
Or just go in the general fund.
Okay.
I think we might have an account number for gifts, but that's the number it would go under.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, that passes. Thank you, Manitou Clothing, and we'll send them a copy of the
Resolution and a
Resolution.
thank you card.
Thank you. Okay. Request to use commercial bay docks for the Classic and Vintage Boat Show. And I can just kind of set this up. So Carter Johnson, who has something to do with the organization of these classic boats, has requested that the Conservation District allow them to tie up boats on the ends of the Tallies and Admiral D's docks during this old boat show. And my understanding is it would be one boat deep on the end of the dock. Technically, I think that would put them outside of the approved ADUA, but it'd be temporary just for an afternoon. So I'll make a motion that we approve that.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve. Now, any discussion? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, that passes. Oops. Okay, unfinished business. First item is the VFW EAW draft application. So we made progress on that this month. I think we have the document in a pretty solid form, and I've asked, since I'm basically what I did was I took the input that the applicant had provided and some work that Sherry had done on it, and I just consolidated it into a more concise document to try to respond to all the questions. And so I've asked Chris if he would mind giving that a check just to make sure that things look the way that they should look, that we have all the questions responded to, and then also to help try to figure out the figures. The applicant has thrown a whole bunch of figures over the fence. Some of those may not be required, but some of them will be. And so Chris is going to take a look at that as well. And then once Chris gets through with it, then we would send that to the applicant for them to review one final time, to sign, and then submit to us.
You may want to remind everyone who Chris is.
Chris Churchill.
Okay, as opposed to another Chris.
Sorry, so Chris Churchill. Yep, thank you. Okay, so that's where that's at. And do we need a motion? So what I would like to do is once Chris gets through with it, hopefully that's, say, a week from now or so, I would like to send it to the applicant without it coming back to the board. Is everybody okay with that? Do we need a motion for that?
It's still administrative at that point.
Okay.
They would then turn it around and say we're done,
True,
and then you would take action on it at the next meeting.
true.
Yeah.
That would be the idea, that we,
It's still in the background now, I think.
yep, okay. So,
Review.
yep. Okay, so that's the plan. So assuming that Chris gets to it in a meeting, or, in a short amount of time, then we will throw that back over the fence to the applicant, let them look it over one last time and send it to us, hopefully before our July meeting. And then at our July meeting, hopefully we can look at it and consider it to be complete, and then get it published in the EQB Monitor. Any questions on any of that? Okay, moving on. Lake use study, Meredith. So just a minute then. So I know it's 7:10, and is it Mr. Patel that you're here for the public hearing? I'd really like to wait till Chris gets here. So can we just give him another 5-10 minutes, and then if he's not here, we'll just have it. Everybody okay with that?
It could be tough, I'm just telling you. If they started at 6 or 7, when did they start?
I don't know. He thought,
Most
yeah,
of the time it's 7, and at 10 after for a city, we don't know where he is on the agenda, so you might be waiting a little longer than you think.
sure.
So even if they took him at 7:01, he's not going to be here for 15 minutes just to get here.
True that. Yeah,
Just saying.
yeah. Well, let's give it 5 more minutes. If he's not here by 7:15, then we'll start the public hearing. So next item under unfinished business is the lake use study. Meredith?
Yeah, I have an update from Steve McComas at Blue Water Science for the board. He reported that the study is on track and on schedule. They did go out Memorial Day, and he reported moderate activity that day. They will be going out again for another peak day on the July 4th weekend. Additionally, the homeowner and lake user surveys have been completed, and I want to thank the board for their input on those. Any questions from anyone?
No, thanks for that and for following up on that. Next item is 4955 Lake Avenue dock permanency issue. Alan?
Yeah, thank you, Chair and Board. Not too much of an update, only in the sense that I've still got a call into the Watershed District for kind of a final say on that. I did talk to the Conservation Officer, Mr. Pavela. He handed off the complaint largely to the area hydrologist, and so I think from a DNR perspective that the complaint, if you want to call it that, is dead unless anyone's heard from the DNR saying otherwise. So should be something that is more of a final at the end of the month once I'm finally connected with the Watershed District. So I've got to call in, kind of phone tag with their permit person to see what, if anything, is needed. So stay tuned, but not a very exciting update, sorry.
Okay. Any questions for Alan on that item? Okay.
And I should note that includes the question also includes the fence issue at the other location. So if you recall, that was kind of a combined complaint. So hence, we're going to cover both of those with the Watershed District.
Okay.
Just so you know.
All right. Thanks, Alan.
Yep.
So we'll go into the executive committee report. That's me. So the executive committee did meet. We talked about the board training that we mentioned last month, and that's still in line for August. And then we also discussed preparing digital binders for new board members to help them get acclimated to the board, that kind of thing. We talked about the commercial bay permits and specifically the DNR permit status. And I did reach out to Dan Scullin again and ask if it would be possible for us to look at those DNR permits before they go on public notice. And we'll see what he says. There were some treasure items that we talked about that will come up in the budget when we have that discussion tonight. And then we talked about the St. Germain Bay sign, and progress is being made on that. And that was it. Any questions about the executive committee report? Okay. Okay. Well, let's do this. Let's go ahead and start the public hearing. Let me just get organized.
Chris was first on the agenda, and it's 7 o'clock start.
Okay, well, let's just go a little further then. So, Mike, are you good for the Lake Quality Committee report?
You bet.
Thank you.
The lake level today is 922.70. It's been going up all day. I had a reading earlier, and then Sherry has one just right now, and it's 922.7. So we're 4 inches higher than last month at this time, and the rain's not stopping. In fact, the ground's probably going to get so saturated that it'll come up even faster. So, positive thinking. Lake temperature is 70 degrees. It was 65 degrees last month. But it's been cold and windy, and last year at our June meeting, the lake temperature was 77 degrees. It's still cool.
Wow.
Let's see. The Eurasian water milfoil, we're coming into the time where we're going to survey and treat it. And last month, we approved using Lake Management, and this month you have their bid in your package. And they have 3 prices for 3 products, and typically we've used the 2,4-D and the triclopyr, and I've done try to, when it was available, when both products were available, to do half the lake in one product and half the lake, half the areas that needed to be treated with the other product, and then the next year switch them over. And we had very good luck with that. It proved effective. Now, the DNR has asked us, they had a meeting, and Brian and myself came, and they were asking us to try this Procelicure, which is $1,617 an acre. It's supposed to be really good. I talked to Steve McComas about it, and he said that it does get rid of the plants the first year. It's pretty good the second year, but by the third year, fragmentation of other milfoil areas come in and settle and start to populate the area. So you have to kind of take the 3-year guarantee, kind of, well, not literally, I guess. So anyhow, last year, in the last 2 years, we have not had, it has to be on 10 acres or more. We have not had a 10-acre site. They've all been smaller. So we would not get the guarantee. So we would still like to try it maybe in a test area, but it's very expensive. Last year when I was doing the budget, I figured that we would get a grant from the DNR. We didn't get a grant from the DNR this year. I figured that we would have snow cover on the lake, which pretty much makes it dark down there, and we don't have any growth. We didn't have snow cover. We barely had ice.
Yeah.
So with that, my calculations were all wrong. So we budgeted $15,000. We're going to need a lot more. The average treated area, I went back 10 years, and the average treated area is 52 acres. So if we did 52 acres, and we did half one product and half the other, the cost would be $30,134. If there's more milfoil, because it's had a much longer growing season, it could be up to 62 acres. Then if I did half one product and half the other, the total cost would be $35,929. If it really is bad, as bad as it can get, although we've treated 72 acres would be the next step up. We've treated 88 and 144 acres. Those are the two ones that are higher than the 72 that we've ever treated, but those were more than 10 years ago when we were really getting into kind of trying to control it. But if we did, with this long growing season, end up with 72 acres, that'd be $41,724. Now, if we only have 52 acres and we want to try triclopyr and 2,4-D and then add Procelicure to it, the expensive one, we would have to have a 10-acre site or more. If we did 10 acres in Procelicure, that's $16,170. That'd be leaving 42 acres to treat, so that'd be 21 acres in one product and 21 acres in the other. The total would come to $40,509. So on the high end, to err on the high end, if we had 72 acres of milfoil to treat, be almost $42,000. If we had on the low end only 52 and we wanted to try Procelicure, which we would try if we had a site greater than 10 acres, that would be $40,509. So the top ends, we're looking at like $42,000. So to get $42,000 to spend, I've got $15,000 budgeted. I would need $27,000 from reserves, which we have, to add to that just in case, to make sure that we get the lake treated effectively. Now, is that confusing? Okay.
No, it's pretty straightforward.
So, any questions on that? Because I'm going to ask for $27,000. So. Nothing? Nothing? Okay, I'd like to make a motion that we make available from our reserves up to $27,000 for milfoil treatment this summer.
I'll second. So we have a motion and a second and you heard the motion. Any discussion? And Mike, could you just talk through, sorry to make you do this because I should know it, generally the timing of how this would proceed?
We will do, with this approved, I will contact McComas and we'll set a date to do a survey.
Okay.
And it might be earlier this year. Then usually it's the last week in June, but we're getting close to it, so it might be the second to the last week in June. The weather has just been terrible. You can't get out on the lake. So,
Okay,
and to do it in the wind like we had even today, or half as much wind as we had today, you couldn't be very accurate with your rake throws and all that kind of stuff. You get blown right off the site. Meredith's been out there. She knows how you do it. And if it's calm and sunny, you can get a really good survey.
So the survey would occur in June yet?
Yes.
And then that would get submitted to the DNR or not?
It would get submitted to the applicator.
Okay.
The applicator then talks to the DNR to make sure our permit's up to date. Our applicator really is good to us. I'll make sure the permit's up to date, but then they work with the DNR. And pretty much when you got McComas and lake management, the DNR says, that's we'll do it. So then the treatment would come probably after the 4th of July,
Okay.
because to treat it before the 4th, we would be ready to treat before the 4th of July. I'll start talking to the applicator and we'll start talking about times and dates. But to treat it before that, it's not good because the 4th of July is so busy, it's going to mix up the water column. So treatment will be after the 4th of July.
Okay. All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Meredith?
Why are we so keen to try and Procelicor this year when we're so over budget?
Even if it's over budget?
Yeah.
Do you want to give me more money?
I'm just wondering if this is the year
Well, I was thinking
maybe we
that
don't try it since we're so far over budget.
If we had less acreage than 72, that I would try to work it in to get the number back up to 42,000.
Okay.
Because I really want to see how it works.
But if it comes in at 72 acres, let's say, as an example, that need to be treated, then that you wouldn't bother with the Procelicor this year.
No.
So basically, it's taking this 42 and
Fill
giving
in
Mike
with-
the flexibility to
Yeah,
do what he needs to do with that.
yeah. And I'll keep you posted when these things are happening.
Thank you.
Okay, so Diane?
Do they mark when they treat? I've seen.
They
some
do
markings,
mark,
but-
they put these plastic bags with the notice inside of it where they treat.
and
They
then-
don't last very long, but then the treatment, is not, it's not harmful to humans. And if fish don't like it, they just swim somewhere else, but generally it's not a problem. And it's only like a couple of days that,
Do they remove the bags then?
they seem to sink. I remove them if I find them out there, but they don't last more than a couple days. So. Okay.
Okay, so Chris, welcome.
Sorry I'm late. I had to
that's
go to
all right.
Matamidi.
Yep. So there's a motion and a second on the table to approve an additional 27, up to an additional 27,000 for the weed management, milfoil treatment in the lake. So that's a motion and a second. We've had some discussion, and Mike's run the numbers several different ways. And depending on where the acres is, Mike will make a decision on which chemicals to use. But it gives us the flexibility to treat up to 72 acres.
Yep.
72 acres with the cheaper chemicals. Okay, so any further discussion on that? Okay, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, that passes. Okay, and anything else from you, Mike? Anything else from you?
Hope I'm done.
Any questions for Mike? Okay, all right, thank you, Mike. Okay, so now we'll go back and we will open the public hearing. And, yep, Alan.
Before you open it,
Yep. I'll lay it out a little bit. Okay. So at the last meeting, there was a request, and sorry, I'm just going to use last names, by Patel and Magali, I think to do two things. One, to combine their docks into a single dock, and the second is to extend out to 400 feet, which would be beyond the 300 feet that we typically would allow. And a motion was made and passed to approve this dock layout, but it was conditioned on this public hearing and making sure that there wasn't any concerns raised during this public hearing. And Chris, did I capture that well?
But it was conditional. They could still go do the work. It wasn't like they had to hold. They could still do it, and then they just had to do the public hearing.
Yeah, that's right. And the reason, and I think that was the intent of making the motion contingent on this, is so that they could do the work, and we wouldn't hold them up from that. So, okay, so anything else you'd add to that, Chris?
No, that's
okay.
perfect.
So there, I laid it out. So now I'm going to open the public hearing. Yep. Thank you. I'm going to open the public hearing. To begin, would anyone like to speak to this item? And just come up and give us your name and your address, and then tell us what you want to tell us.
Sure. Well, I'm Amit Patel. I'm the homeowner at 213 Park Avenue. More just want to say thank you for your consideration. I know this is it seems like a challenging situation to try and navigate through and approve, so I do appreciate the consideration. I think Chris has been very helpful in trying to navigate some of the variables, and I think had I originally known the depth would vary as much, I would have done some more homework about the draft of my boat and figured out maybe there was a little more sensitivity there. When I moved in, it was at the highest level it has been in a while. This year, my options were to swap it in for a pontoon with a lower draft, and I was ready to do that, and still ready to do that. I know there's an inconvenience it causes by going out that far, so I do apologize for that. I think it has the current level is at 49 inches, whereas previous measured 44 inches out at the end of the dock, so it has gone about 6 inches at that location, and that's really the only items that I can bring up at the moment. I just do appreciate the consideration of for the dock.
All right, thank you.
Could I ask a question?
Oh, sure. Oh, sorry.
According to these notes, at 350, it was 36. Is that up to 42 now?
No, I didn't. My neighbor had said that he took the measurement at 400 feet out the end. Sorry, I believe the dock length is about 375. If my memory serves me correctly, it's 49 inches there. It is a fairly linear grade from the start of the water down out, and so I assume it's probably about 6 inches in addition at that point, would be my guess.
Okay.
I did not take a measurement at that location, though.
Okay.
Okay, any additional questions for Mr. Patel?
Since the dock's been out there, have you gotten any feedback from anyone driving by? Any concerns of anyone?
No, unfortunately, I've not been out at the end of the dock as I usually would. The chairs have been located off, so no real conversations as I would typically have. My neighbor to the left, the Magnusons, had voiced a concern about it not being placed towards their end of the property, so it's in the middle. And so we did take that into consideration, moved it on the other side. And then the other two neighbors we had spoken to and didn't have any points there. We have put lights all the way down the length of the dock along with reflective tape per recommendations from this board. So that is there. Looks kind of like a runway, so I'm not sure. Maybe we take those lights off. It's a little aggressive, perhaps. But aside from that, have not received any feedback.
So you have lights out at the end of the dock?
It's actually kind of
It's all the way down.
Yeah.
I may do it to mine. I think it's kind of cool.
Yeah,
I've done it to mine before, too.
yeah. It looks good. I mean, it looks interesting. It's the only one that has the lights. But I think I don't know what you'd prefer if we take those off. I think the formal recommendation was 300 feet and
I think
beyond.
the good that they're not super bright. It's not like these spotlights. Like they just look like small little yard lights. You know what I mean?
They're solar powered, I take it?
Yeah. They just kind of shine straight up, so they're not
Yeah.
obnoxious. And reflective tape down the sides beyond 300 feet as well.
Okay, any additional questions for Mr. Patel? Okay, thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
And I'm assuming no one else is here to speak to the public hearing, so I will close the public hearing, and we will have some discussion. Chris, would you like to make a motion to remove the contingency? I'll make a motion to remove the contingency.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second to remove the contingency. Any discussion?
I guess I understand that you said it was 375, not 400.
From the diagram that Chris Library pulled together, 400 feet out, just a little bit past the end of the dock, so I'm just guesstimating. That's probably a little shorter than 400 feet.
Okay, so more like 390, not 375. So I think we should, instead of having it 400, have it at 390.
I mean, we can update the diagram and update the variance that we have, just so it's the proper length, if we really need it.
Okay,
I'm just concerned about the precedents this sets. You know, it's not very deep at the end of my dock either. I'd love to go out further than I can,
sure.
but I don't have that ability unless I go, and I don't need it for my boats. But, you know, I think you're going to get people saying, he can do it, why can't I?
Yeah,
And that was what we talked about in the last one. So it was like, what we really want to do is go back to the math on it, where it's like, here, if you have a hardship due to the size of your boat, right, we want to give you access, right? So it's like, we're not going to give it to everybody. We're not going to give 400 feet if you have a jet ski, let's say, right? But if you have a bigger lift and a bigger boat and it makes sense and you combine with your neighbors and it saves on space, we'll take them all into consideration. We'll do it on data, not just like, oh, I just want it. You know what I mean? We'll look by it case basis.
Well, essentially, you're doing that if you're buying a boat that has a deeper draft on it. That
Sure, but you can't control what the lake does either. And some you can take into consideration now that you know, but at the time, I can understand why people can buy boats when the water's up.
okay, well, I'm fine with the motion at 400. Are you fine with
I'm fine with it too.
400? Okay, Alan?
And remember, it's already passed.
Yeah.
So the only point to this is just removing the contingency that anyone complained.
Yeah.
So I think you would have to redo the variance itself if you wanted to change the number. And if he's really at 390, we're talking about from here to the podium.
Yeah.
So I think it's probably simpler to just leave it stand, because that's not what was noticed either for the public.
Okay. Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Sign. Okay, that passes. Thank you.
Can I ask one question now, Brian?
Yeah.
So going forward, for these variances that we get, we'll follow this process, I think, right?
Except the public hearing would be loaded the same night that it's considered.
The same night as the variance, so then Sherry and I are on the same page when it happens, if it happens again. Okay.
Yeah, I think it's the way we have to go, at
That's
least,
fair. I
at
think it's
least for a
totally fair.
while,
It's
and
like,
see how it
it's
goes.
the first one, and we get it documented, and we'll just do it going forward.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so now that's all done. And Chris, we moved ahead with a bunch of items, but your items we left behind. So now so now we're on new business, commercial bay compliance checks.
Yeah, I did not make very good progress on it. And then I will get that done and share that with the executive committee as soon as I can.
Okay, and some aerial photos.
And those I got today, so
Today?
I started counting them. I know you were going to count them, but we'll double check with each other. From the initial counts, they started looking good. So I saw tallies, but tallies has to tell us too, like, which open slots they're deeming transient. And then from Docks of White Bear, I didn't get through all of it, but like the first three, they were like, oh, they were dead on. So it's looking positive. If I can get those two, I think the other two will be fine.
Okay, and Sherry, did you count the boats, and can you give us any information on that?
What I did was I looked at the diagrams that were submitted with the application and then compared it to the boats. There were no more boats than what they were allowed. I just want to say that Tally's diagram is just still very confusing, and we need to get
So we've
that
had
taken care
a
of.
couple follow-ups. I'll get with Keith and we'll figure out which ones, but the numbers look right as long as we identify which open slips are the transient ones for
Oh,
them.
that's encouraging, eh?
I think so. I was kind of happy when I saw the aerials. I was like, all right, thank God.
I'll just chime in since I'm the one who did them. They were just from the tail end of last week and at about 6 in the morning. So I don't have any explanation for what I call the hockey mouth dock, where you've got one missing here and there. It was a little odd because there was no one on the lake. So it was either someone's boat was out for repair, or maybe it overnighted at someone else's dock, or it's a transient. I don't know.
And so that's what Sherry and I are counting. We're not counting boats. We're counting the slips that are numbered. So that was the big thing we wanted to do this go around. The only thing we had with Keith was there was three or four that we said, hey, Keith, you got to label which ones are the transient slips, because he said those will be transient. The rest will be the slips you want to count. So, but when you count the boats there, he's under, I think he's at 57 and 6. So he's like, so he's there in compliance, I believe. He just has to get us a better picture on which ones are slips that aren't being used.
Okay.
Yep.
And I don't know if everyone got a chance to see the pictures or not, but I would say from a first blush reaction from the guy who takes these for the last several years, the diagrams look great. Everyone looks like they're pretty much in conformance with what they were given. Lions Park looks really good, especially with that end dock pulled very far back, and the angles all look super good. So I think what you guys did with tallies and with docks, combining that dock, I mean, all those complaints that we got last year, that's largely eliminated now just with that modification. So I don't assume anyone's gotten a call about it, but it sure looks good from 400 feet in the air. So everyone else looks pretty much dead on. So
Because the one he's touching on is that far dock to Lions Park. It had this like little jag, but when they started doing it, they figured they just were better off going straight out. So it pulled that whole dock in probably, I don't know, 15, 20 feet.
easily, yeah.
So he's off that line a bit, but he kept the same format, which is good in the sense of number of slips and docks or boats.
And in past years, not only was the angle more towards the park, but it was longer. And so you can see the dramatic difference from last year, I would just put it that way. And just as long as we're on the subject, I'm going to send our shots to the Ramsey County Sheriff's Office, and they have an officer too with a drone, so they're going to do their boat count, or I should say slip count, really, as per the contract. So that'll probably be within the next week and a half. The officer that does that apparently with the sheriff's office has been out for the last couple of weeks, so that's why they haven't done anything yet. But I did confirm that we'll have a report from their perspective as well by July.
And then I'll get the links. It was just a mess of a month, so it's like I'll get the links along with all those, and we'll mash it all up.
Okay.
But initial looks, it looks pretty good.
Okay, good. Is that good? One thing that I'll add is that the city set up an appointment to get together with Mike McGoldrick to try to look at how they could set up a mark on the docks of White Bear building, and then put a post on the city's property so that someone could cite that line between Lions Park and docks of White Bear Lake. Mike didn't show, but I spent some time talking with the city, and it seems like they have a pretty good idea. So if Mike was agreeable to it ultimately, then they'll probably put that in.
And they were in dialogue, I think, from what I saw with Sherry and I saw.
That's right. Yeah, Mike just had, I guess, a wrong time for the meeting or something. So then they had to reschedule with him. Okay, so that's it for that. So now, Chris, we're on to Lake Utilization Committee. Mark is designated for that. Mark's not here. That committee didn't meet, so is there any report?
No, it was such a light agenda. There's just a few complaints that we're working on, and it didn't make sense to meet on it.
Okay, so we'll move on to the Lake Education Committee. Scott?
Yeah, a few things. First of all, with regard to the Laker publication, the first issue is out. I hope you've all received it, as it includes a 4-page insert from us, and that is, of course, mailed to all the Lakeshore owners to communicate. We have now submitted our content for the next issue, and for the remaining issues, we get 1 page. And that looks good going forward. I have a pile of extra ones that Mike and I can distribute to the city council when we meet with them next week. And hopefully they'll be so impressed that they won't worry about other stuff. Let's see what else. We had our first summer lake cleanup on Saturday. I haven't heard if we got any feedback from anybody else, but at least 4 members of the board here went out and worked on Ramsey County Beach, and I think we did a pretty thorough job with that. leaving it pristine for Manitou Days. And let's see, we do have, if we decide to go forward, and I was asked if we heard any feedback, we do have some other Boy Scouts who might organize it for us next year if, we're going to go forward with it. So we'll have to, it's less than a week out from that event. I don't know if any other cleanup was done, but I think it was good publicity. I sent it to all my neighbors, because we're right in that Snyder Bay area. And I was hoping that they'd pick up some junk that has been there. It did not disappear, but let's see. Do we have anything else before social media? I'll pass it over to you.
Sure, I can. So this month on our social media, we'll have a new issue of the Laker coming out somewhere around the 4th of July, probably a little bit before. I'm going to put a thank you out for the people that participated in our Manitou Days summer cleanup. I'm going to post when we do our weed survey for Eurasian water milfoil and when the treatment will be done. Any questions for Scott or me?
I don't have any questions, but I'll just give you a big thanks for organizing that cleanup. That was really good, and hopefully it'll get some traction and it'll perpetuate itself. That'd be nice. Okay, so any questions for Meredith or Scott? Okay, we'll move on to Treasurer's Report. Mike?
Treasury report, you have that in front of you. And if there's any questions on anything, I will make a motion to approve debit card credit purchase 2024-12, debit card purchase 2024-13, and checks number 4955 through 4963.
Second.
Second, okay.
So we have a motion and a second to approve. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, that passes.
Okay, budget. The final budget you have, and you can see what each community is going to be assessed. So you can represent that to your communities. We went through everything last month, and the only changes were we escrowed $2,500 towards an audit, and then we'll do that again next year, and then we'll be ready to pay for it. That money will be set aside rather than having a lump there. And we escrowed $10,000 towards a lake management plan or whatever the next plan is that comes out in 26, 27, or however this works out. But we'll start escrowing money towards that plan rather than taking a big lump sum like we're doing this year. So those are the only changes from last month, in addition to the community assessments. Any questions?
What is the total then assessment? I'm trying to track.
The total,
Oh, there it is. It's from 27, so it's 2,800 bucks basically to 46,000, right? Is that the increase?
Yeah.
So 20 grand.
Last year we deficit spent,
Yeah.
and so that knocked down
yeah.
what we needed for revenue.
Maybe you guys give me guidance. How does the city react to these types of things when it goes up like that? I know it's a drop in the budget or drop percentage. It's small for their budget, I would think, for some of these increases. But how does that dialogue go? Because I take it you have to go door to door now.
If you look on here
Yeah.
and go back to 2021
Yeah.
and look down what the assessments were,
Yeah.
and then 22, and then
Right.
23,
So you've gone down anyways.
and then we took a big bite this year. We knew we were doing it to get our reserves down, and now we're back to 45. So we're
in range.
yeah,
Okay.
we're in line.
No.
Yeah.
Some hard conversations, or it's not that bad?
We'll find out next Tuesday.
You know, there was a time in the past when one of our member communities was concerned about our our reserve funds.
Yeah.
So we developed a reserve fund policy, so now we try to control within that 1.5 to 2 times our annual budget. And I think that made a nice difference for the community. And then I think, to Mike's point, we have been trying to put more of the burden onto the people that are actually using the lake by increasing the fees at Commercial Bay, and we'll do that again. And so that also helped reduce the load that each member community has to take on.
Yeah, if you look down the next yellow lines, fees and interest, and you can see how it's building up.
Yeah.
And then we raise the fee in that, so that substantially helps the budget.
And the other thing that got us this year a little bit was that we didn't get a grant.
Yeah.
Those are important for us.
But realistically, going forward, it's probably going to stay within that range, I would think. Now that our fees are up in the city, I mean, it's probably going to stay about that flat, I would think, or less.
We want to keep doing a balanced budget, so it depends on what things increase for us, but we'll try to, it's, we're very conservative. A lot of public entities, I'm not mentioning anyone, but, they figure if it's budgeted, they have to spend it all. We don't think that way. So, I think we're pretty responsible.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to approve the 2025 budget.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, that passes. Thanks, Mike, for all your hard work, and Diane, for getting that budget together. Okay, any questions for Mike on treasurer items? Okay, board council report. Alan?
Thank you again, Chair and Board. The only bullet point there is Ramsey County. I did talk to our sergeant, and thanks to the weather, shockingly, it's been what we'd call a slow start to the season. So they haven't spent a whole lot of time dedicated patrol on the lake yet for that obvious reason. And so what they did, they were out here last weekend, is my recollection, and with the parade and everything else going on, they ended up ticketing a lot of folks for parking. So anyone who was around saw a lot of people parking wherever they could with their trucks and trailers for their boats, and so they issued a lot of parking tickets. So not exactly on the lake, but the explanation for that was that they were the county-wide designated, so that means they get to drive around and wait for something exciting to happen, dramatic, so they needed to have a boat that was just mobile, which means they couldn't dedicate it to White Bear. So they're planning their next big push, obviously, for the next holiday coming up. So stay tuned. Hopefully that'll produce, well, knock on wood, it doesn't produce anything, because that means everyone's being pretty responsible. I was out on the boat Friday, and I think everything looks pretty good. Not only is it relatively clean as a lake, everything actually looks fairly good. I think there could be some more buoys on the South Shore side, because that's a little difficult. There's only a handful of them, and they're so far out that you don't realize that it's marking the entire South Shore. So by the time you see them and you realize you're on the lee side of them, it's a little too late. Just my observation as wearing my captain's hat from Friday. Anyway, I also talked to Matt Pavela. He's our conservation officer, of course, and he's been busy doing fishing compliance checks because of the same slow start. And so mostly what he's seen on White Bear Lake are folks that just curiously don't know that they might need a license to fish. So he's been reminding people with a coupon to go to court and talk about why they don't have a fishing license. And according to him, most people just want to figure out how to pay it on the spot. So I think people are just trying to get away with the fact that, conservation officers can't be everywhere all the time. So he's catching them, and that was about it for activity. I think it was the sergeant, not the conservation officer. There was the only real emergency, I guess you could say, in the last month was someone had a boat that apparently died out on the lake. So one boat had to get towed in for some mechanical problem. So that was about it. So I'd stand for questions.
Any questions for Alan?
What we'll have next time, right? We'll send, or they'll send someone out to do, I guess you could say, the official evidence gathering, at least from the sheriff's perspective on slip count too. So it'll be interesting because it's never been offered to us before that they do with their own drone. I didn't even know they had one. So
I would like to ask a question regarding the buoys along Lake Avenue. where if you don't see them because they aren't regulation size, you're too late by the time you do see them.
Are those ours?
I don't know who's put them there. They look to me like they were Folger coffee cans or something, red plastic things. And I think we need to put some there that are big and stick up tall enough that people will know. Because we decided it would be a great idea, since the water was higher, to go under the bridge.
How'd that go?
Not well. My husband refused to turn around, and yeah, we had a little problem. And I was
Hear about it
rowing
from
the
you?
pontoon boat. Pardon me?
Did he hear about it from you?
Yes.
Moving on.
Yes.
Sorry for that experience. We chewed up a prop too down on the south side.
Yeah. So we need to get some tall things there that are visible.
Well, we should look into whose those are, obviously, if
They're not
they're
big.
markers.
They're very small, and they're not regulation size.
Okay.
I don't know where all of ours are officially. Mike probably does.
They're on the way out.
We have bigger ones.
Yeah, on the way out of that area.
They're the same ones in or out,
Oh, no, the ones on Lake Avenue were small,
the red and the green.
and they were small.
Yeah.
Like tubes.
Yeah, they're very short. They're not tubes that are sticking up. They're tubes that are laying on their side, and they're
We've got
about this
bigger
big.
ones. We've got bigger ones.
Okay, since last week?
So I'll just ask, and feel free to say no. Would you mind, Mike, taking a look at that situation and seeing if you think,
Yeah, I know exactly what it looks like.
okay, and so should we get more buoys out, do you think, or?
If you want. I mean, we do have bigger buoys than are out there, but the buoys that are out there, I think market very well. I mean, you don't need to see them from across the lake.
No,
When
but
you
you
get
do,
there, you want to be able to see them.
you do need to see them before you get there, or else it's too late.
Yeah.
And it was too
How
late.
far away do you want to see them?
Oh, at least 20 feet. You know, I mean, you should be able to see them as you come under the bridge, so that you see where the red ones are and the green ones are, so.
From the bridge? Like
From
all
under the
side?
bridge along Lake Avenue. I'm not talking about when you
You're talking the north
exit.
side or the south side of the bridge?
It would be the south side. Yeah, not before the bridge,
So you're
after
going under the bridge?
under the bridge, yeah,
That's interesting.
Towards the VFW.
towards
towards
the
Commercial
VFW.
Bay.
That's south, isn't it? Yeah.
Just confirm it. It's hard to see. There's all that brush. All right, that's fine.
Well, and it was very hard to see those things, and you're on a pontoon boat and it's up higher, so you didn't see them. So, good idea.
Okay, so I'm not sure what to do with this.
I'll look at 'em. Look at 'em.
Okay, that'd be great. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Mike.
Okay. Any other questions for Alan?
The only other thing I'd note, and this is just sort of an FYI, I got a call from someone who was very disappointed that there was no public parking in Commercial Bay. So do that with that what you will, but that was kind of a shock to someone who came over and tried to park and enjoy the Commercial Bay for all intents and purposes, someone who lives on the lake, and it was very disappointing, and so I told them I would relate it to you guys.
No public boat parking.
No public parking, yeah, for off the water.
Yep.
For cars or for boats?
Boats. Someone came in off from the lake, who lives on the lake, tried to come over and utilize one of the businesses in Commercial Bay and had nowhere to go because they had nowhere to park their boat or slip their boat, dock their boat, tie off their boat. No place for boats.
Yep. Okay, any other questions for Alan? Okay, we'll move on. Announcements. Sherry, do you have any announcements?
I just want to say that our next board meeting is July 16th.
Okay, and so we've reached the end. Would anyone like to make a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, we're adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
I got the finger.
Okay. And then Mike.
But it worked out.